Right then, ladies and gentlemen, lock in and let's get into it. What's going on, friends, and welcome on back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan, and as always, I do hope you're doing well, mate. I really do hope that, and of course, welcome back to Welcome back to Chelsea News, the daily series here on Football Therapy, where I reflect on what's being said about Chelsea, giving you my thoughts on it. More importantly, as always, I ask for yours, and in today's content, a little bit of a reflection on what's going on at Chelsea with Maresca's decisions, his rotation, particularly at centre-back. I do want to reference a little bit of what Joe Cole said on TNT Sports as well after the game. We can chat a little bit more broadly about it. Of course, understandably, there's some really upset Chelsea fans out there. We are in a dismal run of form, winless in 4 games, which is pretty bad, really, if you consider you got Bournemouth and Leeds in there. And we are in a funk. I know we're bad in every December, but that's no excuse to be bad in every December, really. I want to speak about the rotation. Also, we'll hop into some Chelsea news. Chelsea looking at buying Santos to add to Strasbourg, but that could be problematic. Of course, the multi-club model dream is still on, but Chelsea fans don't give a so-and-so about that. They want goals and wins on the football pitch, which hopefully will come in time. Another sort of piece of news that came out yesterday that I haven't reflected on yet. The 74 charges against Chelsea from the agent payments in the Abramovich era, the sort of the financial irregularities that were self-reported. There's been an update apparently this week that's getting sorted, and we are on Wednesday at time of recording, so that's a matter of days. And if that's not enough to get the juices flowing, well, get excited, because Chelsea, or should I say Bluco, have won the race to sign a 16-year-old midfielder. That's right, praise be. There's nothing like, this current iteration of Chelsea when you're down and out, when the chips are down, nothing that could cheer you up rather than some random under 17-year-old player to be signed to make you believe in greatness again. So yes, we'll speak about that as well. Anyway, mate, I'm glad to have you here with me. If you're new or returning, please consider liking and subscribing. I'd be very grateful for that. If you are listening on a podcast platform, please do follow and 5-star rate me. That's very kind of you. I do really appreciate your support. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's have a little read of the quotes of Joe Cole after that loss away in Bergamo against Atalanta. He said the following: Chelsea are just not there. They're just not there yet. There are great performances, and then there are performances that just fall off. There were spells in that game tonight where they looked like a proper outfit, and then they're just conceding silly goals. At this level, you get punished. Lara was unplayable at times, but from Chelsea's perspective, it makes the weekend Everton at home very important. 4 games without a win now. Everton coming to Stamford Bridge, it's a must-win game. Well, it's true, it is a must-win game, and we do... I know it's a miserable result, but there was a few moments in that game away at Bergamo in the Champions League where we knocked it about really well. Some nice one-touch football that the opposition, Atalanta, wasn't capable of doing. But what they were capable of doing is pulling themselves together as an actual sort of senior football team, riding out moments and, of course, rising to the occasion when it matters. Now, both goals are pretty soft from Chelsea. Maresca himself admitted as much. But I don't care about these excuses. For me, the huge talking point that I've gone off yesterday on my match reaction, for those of you who checked out, on Maresca about his decision to not utilise 5 subs and basically bring on Tosin over, say, a Santos, and then you can bring centre-back Joshua Champong back into a centre-back position and put, Gusto or right back at right back, and then Santos into the midfield. You don't need to bring on a really out-of-form Tosin into the equation to make things worse, and I didn't think he looked good at all. And then you didn't use that 5th sub, and that 5th sub should have been Estevao Willian, rather than playing Jamie Gittins for 90 minutes out of position. Look, I'm going over old ground, and that was a huge criticism of mine from the Chelsea manager in that game yesterday in isolation. But I think more broadly, what we need to speak about now is the rotation generally. And I think probably most pertinently, it's at centre-back. Rotating the centre-back combinations all over the gaff. You do not mess with your centre-backs. Yeah? I know you got a lot. But stop moving them. Oh, you play right, you play left. Oh, no, you're going to, Trev, you're going to play right back. No, you're going to play left back. No, you're going to play, right back, left centre back, right centre back. No, look, I get it, you need to rotate. But for example, Arsenal, they've got, a first choice in Saliba and Gabriel. But then, Nketiah and Mosquera are good defenders and just drill them together. Play them together. So if you need to rotate, but just say you do this job, no matter what happens, Trev, you're always going to be playing this role in this system. Learn it by heart, bro. Even if you need to rotate out and I need to put someone else in next to you, you know exactly what you're doing. As soon as you start shuffling people all over the gaff and you get new partnerships, trying to develop new chemistry and new relationships, but suddenly you're here, there, and this, that, and everywhere. It's silly, bro. It's silly, mate. Like Simon Johnson of The Athletic said on the Straight Out of Cobham podcast reaction, you just don't mess with your back two, your back four, or certainly your centre-backs, especially mid-game. You should have kept Trev on. It was such a huge mistake. Now, look, truth is, I have to sort of remind myself of my position on this whole scenario here, or you guys as well, that I like Maresca, and I'm very grateful for what was a season where he probably achieved over the odds with top four, when you needed top five, getting top four. I know we sort of, it wasn't as easy as that at the end, but we got there. We won the Conference League with a great performance in the final, which was our first decent opposition in that competition, let's be fair. And the Club World Cup was a great experience. That was good. That was good. And like I said in yesterday's reaction, Maresca is being looked at by a lot of teams. They think, well, Chelsea's, unstable ground. If he goes, he'll have a lot of clubs that want to come and go get him. He's just signed on to George Mendes's, agency for like elite managers. Like another club will come and get him, a Juventus or something like that. And when we played, basically, like, he won't have any shortages of jobs. I do like him, but he's not the finished article. We kind of have to remember that with Maresca. And fortunately, though he does seem stubborn at times, and it's feeling a little bit like that right now, he does change and adapt. And he came in as this really dogmatic, my way or the highway coach. And actually, he changed loads of stuff, what people expected. So he is developing. I think he's admitted as much that, he's evolving. And despite not being young, he's 45. He's very green as a sort of first team coach, especially at this level. And we have to remind ourselves, this is the first time in his managerial career he's coached a second season of players. I mean, that's wild, isn't it? But this is the risk you took, This is what happened. This is the risk you took when you hired Maresca. Lots of Chelsea fans unhappy, I totally understand. My positions kind of remain the same. I like him, but if he doesn't, he obviously has to get better. He can't be like this forever. And obviously the players too. The players have to grow up, literally. Fortunately, the thing with being a young age, one thing that you can bank on is they will grow older and therefore more experience. So that is something that's in the chamber, that is safe, as it were. Anyway, look, that's Everton. You beat Everton, there is a chance. Obviously, we beat Paphos at home. Oh my God, if we don't deserve anything. And then, you can go away to Napoli and you can, I know it's a big ask, but you can beat them. Where are they in the table? I mean, I'm terrified of Scott McTominay and Romelu Lukaku. Yeah, they're joint top of Serie A. So, yeah, fear. But where are they in the Champions League table, actually? Let me just quickly check that. Because if they are safe and comfortable, they might play a weaker side. They are not. Where are they? They're 22nd. Sugar. So yeah, that's going to be a horrendous grudge match. Conte's weirdly bad in the Champions League, but you win both of those games, you can still reach the target and qualify for the top 8. Not holding my breath, but we absolutely need to beat an Everton on the weekend. We'll speak about that later in the week. An Everton who has a poor record at Stamford Bridge, managed by David Moyes, who has a poor record at Stamford Bridge as a coach. So what could go wrong? Now, yes, let's move on to the next part of this video and talk about these charges. Okay, so this is referencing the 74 charges against Chelsea Football Club, which came under the Abramovich era. This is being reported by Martin Ziegler and aggregated by @CenterGoals. Breaking Chelsea's FA disciplinary case on 74 charges, including alleged secret agent payments from the Abramovich era, is set to conclude this week. Yes, you'll remember this has been going on ever since Chelsea was purchased by the Blue Co consortium. When they did their due diligence, when they were buying Chelsea off Rain Bank, well, Abramovich, but it was being sold by Rain Bank, they looked at the books and they went, what's this? I think they actually negotiated a couple of, like, a few million off and said, we're going to put this to the side because we're going to have to pay for fines for this, because, and then they self-reported to UEFA and, of course, the FA and the Premier League. UEFA said, thanks for telling us, thanks for opening the books. They slapped us on the wrist. What do we know about UEFA? They like cooperation. That's why they hated Man City, because they closed the books to them. Chelsea were like, no, you can look, this is, something iffy here. We want to be really honest. So they gave us a fine. We paid it comfortably. Everyone shook hands and moved on. But of course, there's a sort of Premier League FA disciplinary, and this is the FA one. So it's 74 charges, and apparently it's due to be concluded this week. Chelsea's position on this has always remained the same, that they are confident that there will be no sporting sanctions for these charges. They believe, or they hope, but I guess they believe, we all hope as Chelsea fans, that they will follow suit after UEFA and be like, yeah, look, you did the right thing. This was, this wasn't you, this was Roman Abramovich. We understand, even though Chelsea is Chelsea, otherwise you could, like, break financial fair play rules, buy, like, 1,000 players. You could buy the Premier League and then just technically switch owners and be like, wasn't us, let us off. Obviously, you can't do that. You still need to sort of, pay the price, as it were. But they're hoping that there'll be, a fine, that even if there is, like, some sort of, like, maybe, I don't know, like a transfer ban. If there was a transfer ban, these men would be furious, because they love transfers. Apparently not in the January transfer window, though, but we will see as that time creeps on. It'd be very hard to believe that they don't do anything in January. I know last time they didn't, but you just feel like they got a twitchy trigger finger and they'd be keen to sign players. Anyway, look, it's good. It's good that this will get sorted. We need to draw a line under this. We need to move on with our lives and see what happens and be like, right, the ghosts of dodgy dealings past are gone. We know everything's above board now. Everything's kosher. They did their friggin' amortization loopholes, women's sale loopholes, women's team sales. I should very much clarify that. The sale of the women's team, the hotels and all the rest of it. So they've done their little, like, hacks. They've changed, the rules have been changed. They feel like they've got ahead. They feel like they've cleaned up the sort of financial irregularities of the past, and we can all move on together, above board, books open, nothing dodgy, no more stress. And, we'll see what happens with Man City. God, what's going on with the Man City one? Maybe they'll talk about that on the second channel. Anyway, let's move on and speak about Santos. So, the Football Insider exclusive, right, UEFA have taken a very firm stance. Chelsea warned about completing Santos takeover. Now, Chelsea's owners, Blue Co, which, for the moment is still Todd Boehly and Clearlake Capital. I don't know how their relationship is at the moment. But, of course, the plan always was to have a multi-club model. Now, they very quickly bought Strasbourg, and they seemingly very happy with that. Strasbourg ultimately performing well and looking like a good fertile ground for developing players for either themselves, Chelsea, like Andre Santos, and Georgi Petrovic did well there, and it was sold for a lot of money, and we'll see what happens with Paez, and of course we're signing Emmanuel Omega. Chilwell's happy there. Diego Moreira is having an excellent time there, and yeah. It seems to be a success. Of course, Strasbourg fans have every right to be upset with the ownership, and that's their decision to make. I understand some like it because, they're getting better players and they're in a European competition now, but some don't like it conceptually, philosophically, existentially, and I totally understand that as well. But you could say, yeah, Strasbourg's ultimately been a success. But they always wanted more. They wanted a French Ligue 1 team. They got Strasbourg done. They wanted a Belgium team and a Portuguese team. They've even spoken to Jorge Mendes about buying, I think a second-tier Portuguese team, and they looked at other teams as well. But they always wanted to buy a Brazilian team as well, which is great because they can sign Brazilian, South American stars, play them there, move them to their Portuguese team to get them into Europe, and then move them to Chelsea maybe. Do you know what I mean? There was always like, we want Belgium team as well would have been very good to capture the Belgian market. And they're looking at Santos. Of course, Santos, massive club, Neymar, etc. Do you know what I mean? But they'll need apparently £200 million to improve the facilities and investment. Now, there's been a warning from UEFA about looking at Chelsea's multi-club model and getting ahead financially, and apparently they've been taking a very firm stance on Chelsea's approach, and they want to keep things clear and above board of, Chelsea financially benefiting off that and funneling it into sort of UEFA. Yeah, so UEFA have, taken a very firm stance on this. It's not just a way to inflate revenues and, money around clubs. This is a comment from Dr. Dan Plumley, who is a financial expert. Basically, UEFA keeping a close eye on this. But if we are to believe multiple reports, Chelsea apparently do enjoy a very strong relationship with UEFA. Like I said, the aforementioned reasons. They're very communicative. They've come in making statements like, everything's going to be above board and we're going to keep talking to UEFA and make sure they're happy. That's why we just got a fine for the aforementioned 74 financial breaches, because it was self-reported and it was from the previous ownership. But they can't blame Abramovich for buying loads of extra clubs. That's what they're trying to do. So, you'd hope the dialogue and the communication stays open with UEFA, and then you can keep them happy. Right, let's talk about this random kid that no one knows that we've signed. Yes, so at Rising Stars 11, who's an ex profile who follows kids, superstars, seemingly reacted positively to Chelsea's exclusive from Romano. Chelsea ownership Blueco win the race to sign 16-year-old midfielder Mohamed Zongo. Here we go. Deal done. He was scouted at the Under-17 World Cup. Well, look, I don't care. Not only do we have lots of young talent yet to arrive, Chelsea have got a really good academy. We've got good young players at Chelsea Football Club. Look, maybe how old is he? 16. So let's say, maybe in 5 years, when I will be in my 40s, I'll go, thank goodness Chelsea signed, hold on, checks notes, Mohamed Zongo. Thank God, because he is different gravy granules, mate. Back then, in the 10th of December, 2025, I laughed at the signing and I was like, we've just lost to Atalanta away. We're winless in 4. This is gaslighting me. I am triggered by yet another teenage signing, but thank goodness we went in and we won the race for, checks note, Mohamed Zongo. And now we've got an absolute superstar, the heir apparent to Moises Caicedo. Who knows? I don't even know if he's a defensive midfielder. Do you know what I mean? And then let's pray for that. But for the moment, I don't care. I don't care. And you can't make me care. Right? I want the current football team that plays under Enzo Maresca to win a ruddy football match. This is what, see the shirts behind me? I'm buying them for the first team. No disrespect to, the women's team. I do follow the academy, that is good, but I support Chelsea because I am invested in the first team. My old man was invested in the first team from back in the 60s, and I just want them to be good. I want Chelsea to be good, and I want them to win games. Is that so much to ask? I do think, look, in terms of, we are on not quite the doorstep, but we're closing in on the winter transfer window. Chelsea will be in the headlines, probably for the likes of Disassi and Raheem Sterling. I would bet the farm on Raheem Sterling going nowhere in January, but I do think Disassi will go. I wonder if there'll be some loans or something like that. The big question, of course, with 2 months out for Liam Delap, and even when he returns, he's got to integrate into the team again. Like, I swear, being 2 months out is like being, so that's 8 weeks. It's like being 10 weeks out, isn't it? Because you need 2 weeks to sort of sort yourself out and play like match days and be into, because it's different. Training is not the same as match days. So I do think, like, I made a video yesterday morning about, I know he was in the news for all the wrong reasons, but just a 6 months loan for Tony. Just get him in. We clearly need him. I don't know if he'd want to come, but if we believe the previous reports that he would take a 50% pay cut, freaking bring him in, bro. Bring him in. Even if he behaves and gets knocked out in other London nightclubs while he's here for the 6 months, if he plays for most of the game weeks, if he scores goals, if he's just available and doesn't do silly stuff, it'll be worth every penny, especially if he's taking a 50% pay cut so he can try and get into Tuchel's squad. Is that not a thing? Like, the briefing's like, well, they've got Mark Yu. Chelsea have got... I've got nothing against Mark Yu. But he's a 19-year-old who's never scored, like, more than a couple of goals, whatever, in a senior season. But it's not... How? Come on. Come on. If you are at risk of dropping out of the top 8 in the Champions League table and you don't know how you're going to navigate the playoffs, if you are at risk of dropping out of the top 5 in the Premier League, if you feel like you need just an extra senior player up top to make you do better in the FA Cup and League Cup to try and win a trophy, it's surely worth it, man. Like, it's surely worth... I know we've done... The thing that would probably come into your mind right now is Gonzalo Higuain, an elite sort of older striker on a 6-month loan from January to try and see you over the line. But even Higuain, look at the goals he scored. He scored 5 goals for Chelsea, and they were good goals, and I loved it. It wasn't very popular, me enjoying Higuain, but I loved how he came to Chelsea. I thought it was pretty funny, and he actually, he scored some goals because he's just. Yeah, but I don't want to talk about Higuain too much here. I realise this is a real weird cul-de-sac to go down. But the goals he scored, look at the goals. You were like, yes, because he's a senior striker who bangs a goal in the back of the net like that. That's what he's used to. He just turns and lashes it in. That's what Ivan Toney would do. Anyway, look, I'm not going to go on forever about that. That's just how I feel. How do you feel, man? Let me know down in all the comment sections. Thank you for liking and subscribing and sticking with me through what can only be described as turbulent times these last few weeks. Everything's going to be okay. Eventually. Alright, take care of yourselves. Peace.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo, chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me, baby.